While not quite as manic as the Bahrain Grand Prix last weekend, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix of 2025 was a pretty eventful affair, and there was plenty to highlight during my 5 things that we're going to learn about this race. So without further ado, guys, let's dive in with the 5 main highlights of the 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. The first thing that we learned is that it was going to be a very short afternoon of running for Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda. Both of them did a decent job in qualifying. Now, getting an Alpine into the top 10 is hard enough. Getting that second Red Bull into the top 10 also is pretty difficult, but unfortunately both of these two guys were out very early on. Lap 1, in fact, for both of them. Pierre Gasly was basically trying to fight around the outside of Yuki Tsunoda, and as they went into the tight left-hander, there was just not enough room for the both of them, and they crashed out into the wall, out of the race. Safety car triggered because of that. Obviously, every single Saudi Arabian Grand Prix now having a safety car, at least one of these safety car periods coming out in every single one of its races. I remember that Singapore had that record for a very, very long time, and it seems that Jeddah is the new version of that. They've had 5 in a row now over the last 5 years. But yeah, really sad for both of those guys. They were on for some good points today, but unfortunately did crash out in the end. But let's talk about the lead battle. Oh, this was a controversial one for sure. Oscar Piastri against Max Verstappen. Now, of course, Max Verstappen had an incredible qualifying. Putting that Red Bull on pole position was something I never ever saw coming in a month of Sundays, but he managed to do it. Piastri, though, was alongside him on the front row of the grid, and both of these two guys went into the first braking zone, the first corner, pretty much neck and neck. I'd say Piastri was probably marginally ahead, and that was probably what swayed the stewards' decision. While they were under safety car, unfortunately, Max Verstappen was slapped with a 5-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. When those two were obviously battling, Max Verstappen took to the runoff area and went across there. Now, unfortunately, he does have previous when it comes to this. He did do this quite a bit when he battled against Hamilton back in the day, and basically, instead of getting a penalty at that point, he chose to give up the position. Of course, very controversial incident because Hamilton slammed into the back of him. Let's not open that can of worms here, but he has been done for this before, Max Verstappen, so he probably should have seen it coming. Although when it got, I did not watch the race live. I've only caught the highlights after the fact. It's been a very busy Easter for me, hence why this review is slightly later than normal. Of course, normally I do it of the night. This is actually the day after, unfortunately for you guys, but hey, I'm here bright and early on Monday morning still to do this review for you. But anyway, by the by, on the highlights, it made it look as though he got a penalty pretty much as soon as the safety car period ended. So unlike with Hamilton 4 years ago, Max Verstappen didn't have the option of just giving up the place unless he did it straight away as soon as he did it. That was the only chance that he had, and I understand why they didn't, because at the end of the day, it was not that shut and dry. It was not that clear, really, to me. I mean, I would say that he probably should have given the position up. I mean, you're probably going to say British bias, McLaren bias here. Fair enough, say what you're going to say, but I can see why they didn't give it up, but I also think, looking at it, given previous incidents, it's not a surprise he was given a penalty for that. But I also think he should have been given the chance just to give it up rather than a 5-second penalty. It didn't seem like he had that option to do that just because of the safety car period, and then as soon as it restarted, 5-second penalty for Max Verstappen. That's what it seemed like anyway. Whether it was different on a live broadcast, I don't know. I'm just going off what I've seen. So, yeah, unfortunately, that did cost Max Verstappen the race win. When he went into his pit stop, he did have to do a 5-second penalty. You could argue if it wasn't for that, he probably would have won today. I think Piastri probably had the measure of him, to be honest, today. It was pretty close between his two of them throughout this run into this race, but on the other side of things, you could say that Piastri was probably pacing himself, knowing that Verstappen would have had a 5-second longer pit stop than him. So, 6 one, half a dozen the other. But let's talk about Piastri. He is now the championship leader after this. Incredible stuff for him to do that. Norris's teammate did have a good recovery. We'll speak about him very shortly. But yeah, Piastri, 2 wins in a row. 3 wins in the opening 5 rounds of the season. It is looking rather ominous. That championship gap is not a big one, of course, but it is very, very tight at the moment at the top, between the top 3 in particular. George Russell not really having the best of days in Saudi Arabia. Not a bad day by any means, but by his standards recently, not the greatest. That leading 3, they very much do pull away a little bit from George Russell this weekend as a result of the standings that we saw today. But yeah, really impressive from Piastri. Again, just keeping his head cool, even with everything going on around him, he did what he had to do to win the race, and win the race he did very much in style. But let's talk about Lando Norris. Now, of course, I said that realistically he had to get a podium today if he was going to have any hope of, kind of keeping his confidence going, keeping that momentum going. But he didn't get a podium in the end. He got 4th place. But to be honest with you, given what happened, I think that's a good recovery drive, really. He overtook a lot of drivers. Had a great battle with Sir Lewis Hamilton. Those two really dicing and trying to avoid giving each other the DRS going out of that final corner. Overtake both Mercedes as well, who were looking pretty solid this weekend. I think, honestly, it's a good result from him. He was almost on the back of Charles Leclerc at the end of the race for a podium position as well. Shout out to Charles Leclerc getting a podium in that Ferrari again. That's a big surprise. Fantastic for him. He's been really consistent as well as Charles Leclerc. 3rd and 2/4 in the last 3 races. That's not bad going, really, for a car that's probably 4th fastest on the grid. But yeah, Lando Norris, it's not a bad result from by any means. McLaren still have 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship, but Norris now just 2 points ahead of Max Verstappen, and he is now 10 points behind Oscar Piastri as well, his teammate. It does look worrying. We're going to Miami next, which is the circuit where he won at for the first time in Formula 1, but in large part, he did win there because of the timing of that safety car. He was not the fastest driver through that weekend. That was Max Verstappen, so we will see what happens there. But let's talk very briefly as well. The final thing that we learned is, that management fees for Gabriel Bortoleto may well increase off of the back of this race. You might be wondering what I'm meaning by that. Well, Alonso and Bortoleto had a pretty intense battle today, to say the least. Now, Bortoleto, for those that don't know, is managed by Fernando Alonso's management agency, FA14. And Bortoleto, I have to assume that he didn't see Alonso on the outside, just almost took him into the wall going into turn 1. Alonso went around the outside of his Sauber, much younger driver. And unfortunately, fortunately they didn't actually collide, but it came really close between the two of them. It could have been a really nasty crash, but Bortoleto thankfully in the end just backed out. I don't know whether he was just getting the elbows out or he made a mistake, but I would have to assume he didn't see Alonso. He must have been his blind spot on his mirrors or something. The mirrors in Formula 1 cars are not easy to use, especially when you're an inexperienced driver like Bortoleto. But yeah, heart in mouth moment for Alonso there. Thankfully did not end up in a big crash. But yeah, those were the 5 things that we learned from this race. Max Verstappen, very solid podium, decent recovery drive from Lando Norris, a surprise podium for Charles Leclerc. Piastri now the leader of the World Championship, and Alonso very lucky to not crash out of this race. Unfortunately though, I believe it's still no points for Alonso this season. And in fact, yeah, it isn't. He's still one of 4 drivers not to score any points this season. Lawson, Doohan and Bortletto being the other 3. Not very good company to be in there, unfortunately, for Alonso. He's not used to being that far down in the championship. But yeah, what were the main things that you learned? What were the main highlights from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix this year, guys? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And like I said, I'm sorry for this being a little later than normal, but hey, busy Easter time to spend with family. And unfortunately for you guys, F1 has to take a little back seat at times, but I'm back now. Even though it's Bank Holiday Monday today, I'm going to be hammering out the videos for most of today, so don't worry, I'll catch up. But yeah, see you soon for some more content like this on the channel. Let's hope and enjoy this little break now we've got in Formula 1 for a couple of weeks, and look forward to the Miami Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time. Have a fantastic time wherever you are in the world, guys. Hope you're having a great Easter if you're celebrating that. Hope you're having a great long weekend here in the UK as well. See you very soon for some more videos just like this.